G'day everyone, welcome to the How to Halo Marine tutorial part 8. My name's Andrew DFT, and let's get started. So we're going to be focusing on the shoulder piece today. Now this is a nice little design that goes on the shoulders, of course, but it doesn't cover up too much of it. It just sits there nicely and just kind of gives something to the overall costume. So by the end of the video you should have something looking like this, a nice shoulder plate that will sit on carefully like it is on my mannequin here, and we'll just cover the arm and fill up the detail for that shoulder section. Now if I was to rate the difficulty of this build here for this section, I would give it about a 4 out of 10. It does involve a bit of skills trying to layer up these templates and getting them on those angles to give them the nice 3D form that is required. And if you haven't watched the first tutorial, you will not know about the PDF that goes along with this. It can be purchased for $3.50 from the link below. It gives you all the templates already scaled and all ready to print out, so you can kick off where the video starts, plus a few extra tutorials for some bonus content, as well as an overview of the materials we're going to be using in this section. So jumping right in, we're going to go ahead and cut out all the individual segments that are on this template here. Now there are quite a few of it, and they are quite close together. It's the only way I could make sure that it all fitted on one page. So you're just going to neatly have to cut through and make sure you don't chop any other pieces, so you can spray them out and they'll look like this. Then take those across onto your foam using a pen or pencil. Carefully trace around each individual piece, trying not to move it and trying not to indent the foam so that we can have all the pieces templated onto the foam. Now of course make sure you've got a nice fresh sharp blade so we can cut out all these individual pieces. Because all these are going to kind of like fit together on nice beveled edges, we are going to need to make sure that each line you do cut out, when you can see them here, they are all nicely trimmed so there's no strange parts sticking out. So now we're going to go ahead and start working on the edges. Now where I've marked these two lines are where we're going to be cutting into. So you can go along the side and bevel in with that blade along the lines I just directed, and you should have two sides completed. So if you look at them there, the angle isn't too severe. And now we can go ahead and do them on the other part, and we're going to do 3 sides this time. And you should have looking somewhat like this. So we have the 2 on the bottom piece and we have the 3 on the top. These will of course come together, and you'll see the effects of why we're doing this in a minute or two. Now grab your heat gun and give these a bit of a heat up. We don't need them to be extremely heated up to where they're extraordinarily flexible, just enough to get a nice little reasonable kind of curve in it. Something that is just isn't straight but isn't a circle, just a nice little curve. Then you can grab your hot glue and start piecing them together and hold them until it sets, and glue them as close as you can to having a seamless effect. But because it is foam, you won't get that, but do as best as you can. Then go ahead and start heating up these side panels. We're going to heat those up and then we're going to glue them straight into place. Of course we beveled that part earlier before, so they should just fit in nicely like that. I usually glue one piece together, wait for it to set, and then go ahead and start gluing the extra parts, only because the foam will fight you. We're kind of positioning it into a section where it isn't flat. It doesn't usually fit like this, but of course because it is foam we can bend it into that position, so just be careful when it sets. So now we can start working on these side wings. So where I've just shown you these 2 lines here, we're going to obviously bevel in. Now we're going to bevel on the top part of this, so as you can see I'm not beveling into it, I'm beveling out, cutting off those edges to give it a nice kind of like 45 degree angle, and then we'll heat it up a bit like we did with the previous panels. Just give it that nice kind of curve so it kind of looks not flat, and you should just be able to hot glue those into position. And like I said before, you are kind of forcing them in there, so make sure that they do set and you hold them there in position. Now we're going to add a nice little kind of piece of detail to the top of the shoulder armor. So what you can do is you can go ahead and cut out that template like I am doing so. You cut out the centerpiece, so you just have this kind of nice little, I don't know what you call it, kind of like a buckle kind of thing. Once you've got that, of course, repeat the process. We can trace it down onto the foam, making sure it's not indenting, and then we can go ahead, grab a nice sharp knife and cut this little bugger out. Because it is small, make sure that your blade is reasonably sharp, because you don't want to be having any problems occur when you're cutting this thing out with your fingers, which no one ever wants, of course. Once you've done that, you can of course go and cut it in half, using the blade. Of course, be careful as well because this is a thin little piece. It is likely, if you're not super careful, that the blade will come straight out and hit you in the finger, but I've given you a heads up, so be pretty cautious when you're doing that. Then you can go ahead and start cutting out the centerpiece, so you're left with just a foam version of the buckle. Then go ahead, put some hot glue onto that thing and fit it right into place. And because it is quite a thin piece of foam, it should round over that top section pretty well and stay in position. Now we can move on to the extra section that kind of sits below the shoulder piece. I have no idea what I'd call it, I just know it is that little extra bit. So go ahead, repeat the process, cut it out of its template, trace it onto the foam, cut it out with the nice sharp craft knives, never any dull ones. You're just asking for trouble or asking for a design that comes out less better than what it would have if you had a sharp blade. And then what we can do is cut out these little borders. These are the kind of internal sections which you can then use a pen or a pencil and just trace it in. These are going to be your guidelines, so we can now bevel the exterior side, so we can give that a nice little more 3D look. Cut off that edge like so. Use a sharp blade, of course, because of the angle we're cutting on. EVA foam really doesn't like that, so you're going to have to make sure that you're doing the best you can to keep that edge nice and clean and smooth all around. And now what we can do is even cut into the template further. So what we'll do is we'll cut out this nice little segment, and then we'll trace it onto the foam, and then we'll cut out the piece of foam nicely. I wouldn't do it badly if I were you, but we'll do it nicely, making sure the edges are fine and the little circle up here is done somewhat reasonably well. So now you should have the two pieces, and then what we can do is we can cut this piece in half carefully, like we did before with one of the bracket pieces, and then you can go ahead and transfer these circles across. You can freehand it if you wish. Once you've done that, go ahead and score it. Now remember, scoring is when you make the blade trim through the top layer of the foam, but it never goes all the way through. Once you've done that, you can take a heat gun to both these sections and heat them up just so they can be bent somewhat with a nice curve. Once you've done that, chuck some hot glue on and glue those pieces together. Then you should be done. That should be a shoulder and the other little extra piece that goes on under it, all complete and all ready to be taken to whatever step you'd like next. So hopefully you guys managed to follow along and you have your shoulder piece all ready to go and be painted. Now if you want to take it a step further, you can do this in your own time. If you guys want, you can try and cover up these seams. There are a lot of amazing techniques out there to do that, such as using craft clay. It'll all seal up quite nicely and it will give you a more professional rounded look, which is kind of what I've done for most of the armor pieces on my actual one. Otherwise, you can put this away and get started on another piece simply by clicking one of the links at the end of the video. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you later.